Hi there, it is Bobbie Jo with Real Talk with Bobbie Jo. Thank you so much for joining my podcast. So we've talked with a few lenders and have a good idea about financing options. So let's pretend that you are ready to go hit the market and start shopping for a home. Before we start looking at houses, I would just want to go over a few expectations with you so you would be just knowledgeable about out-of-pocket expenses that will be coming up for you. When you find your perfect home, part of a contract is putting down earnest money. Earnest money can be applied towards your down payment or your closing cost. It's typically about 1% of the purchase price, but it definitely is something that can be negotiated. But this money is due typically about 3 days after you get into contract. Sometimes to people, it's really surprising, like, wait, what? We're not even closing yet. I have to put money up. This money is putting money and giving good faith that you're going to proceed and close on the house. And in the event that you back out of the offer for no reason, or say you just have a change of heart, that money goes to the seller for them taking the time to take their house off of the market. So you're compensating them with a monetary means, meaning the earnest money, opposed to them taking you to court for not following through with what you said you would do. So we would rather them take that earnest money. But nevertheless, it is an expense that happens about 3 days after you get into contract. The next step would be getting a home inspection done. Pretend during the home inspection you decide to back out, like you find things that you're just not comfortable with and you do not want to move forward. I can get your earnest money back if we're protected by a inspection contingency, but we do not get the money back that was for the home inspection. A home inspection typically is between $500 to $700, just depending on how many things you have the inspector look at. An inspector can look and scope a sewer line and or into plumbing fixtures. That's usually an added expense. They can do a inspection and look for, termites and or pests. Sometimes that's an extra expense as well. But you can expect for the inspection process to cost between $500 to $700. And again, if we decide to back out or you don't move forward with the house, that is an expense we do not get back. Lastly would be the appraisal. Sometimes appraisals are paid for as part of your closing cost, so you don't have to pay it right up front out of your own pocket. But some lenders do require you to pay it up front, and an appraisal typically is between $800 and $1,000, just depending on the location and the size of the home and which company they hire to do the appraisal. We don't get to have any choice on who we hire for the appraisal. It's just put into a lottery, and the lender designates someone to go out and do the appraisal. But for the inspections, I can give you a recommendation for an inspector, and or you can use anyone you want to use. In some scenarios, people have relatives who are inspectors themselves, or family members who maybe have flipped properties and they feel pretty comfortable looking at homes. In that scenario, you can always bring a friend to go do the walkthrough for you, or the appraisal or the inspection for you. But on the appraisal, our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do besides just paying the money and or having that expense be added to your closing costs. So those are things to expect financially when you're going through the process of buying a home. When it's time to start shopping for a home, I love if we can drive in the car together, because it gives me a chance to get to know you. And in between homes, we can talk and strategize about the different homes. Sometimes you might have children and it's not as convenient to travel all together. And in that case, we could just meet at the houses and transport to each one and just meet and walk through the homes. But if it is possible, I prefer to drive together when we're able to. Just again, it just gives us time to talk and have fun in the car and get to know each other better. And also gives me time to learn more about what your needs are and what's really important for you. You would not be surprised on how many times people's opinions of what they think they want to buy and what they end up buying completely changes. It happens more often than not. People might have a really hard set list of things they want in a home. And then when it comes down to it, we end up something like completely opposite. I'm like, I wasn't even looking for that type of home for you because you told me there's no way you wanted to live in a condominium. And then we end up in a condominium. So it's a fun ride. It's a fun rodeo, but it definitely does. You have to pivot and adjust constantly through the process of shopping for the home. So just expect to hopefully look at a lot of products, meaning a lot of different homes. Okay. So when it's time to start shopping for a home, if possible, I love to travel together, meaning I can pick you up and take you around and we'll go to different houses. In the event you have children or maybe you have more family who wants to go with us and there's not room for us to do that, of course, we could just, follow one another to each house and go look at them. But if we can travel together, it's just a great time for us to get to know each other a little better. And also just to dial in more ideas about maybe being more creative in our financing or maybe strategizing on how to get into a house that you guys feel would work best for you. So during the house shopping experience, I love to travel together. And if we're having a long day of shopping, I love to stop and have lunch in an area that we're considering buying in, just to get to know some local restaurants. I think that's always fun. And also it's fun for me to get to know different areas as well. So once we're to the point where we start shopping for a house and you're ready to go, it can happen as fast as one day. I mean, I have had clients find homes on the very first day that we were shopping, and sometimes it can take up to 6 months. And wherever you fall in that category is okay. And I will be there with you through the process the whole entire time. We want to make sure we find something that you're excited about. And, having a mortgage is a big deal. And it's important to me that you feel comfortable with the product that you're buying or the investment, because your home is the biggest investment you'll ever buy. And I'll help guide you as much as I can, but ultimately the decision is up to you. And it's very fun to be a part of the process. And once we get into contract, that's when my job really starts, because I have to keep all the timelines together and make sure that, all the moving parts are working, because we have to be working closely, like we had talked about, the inspector, the appraiser, the bank, the escrow office. If there's a septic system, we're working with the county and or the health department, and just making sure that all of the things that need to be done get done in a timely manner. And your job once we're in contract is just having close communication with your lender. And if they're asking you for any documentation, even if they've already asked for it and you turn it in, just in a timely manner, make sure you get all of the documentation to the lender, because they can't move to the next step until they have all the paperwork that they need. And your first contact with a lender usually is the mortgage broker. And then their job is to collect all the information they think that the underwriter will need. And think of the underwriter as their boss. Is going to be double checking all the documentation, and they're the ones who are going to approve the loan ultimately. And so when they're asking for a request for more documents, it's because the boss person, the underwriter, is asking for that. And again, they won't move forward until they get that one piece of paper. So just make sure when you're to that step that we're being diligent to get all of the information to the lender as quickly as possible. And right before we close on the contract, the escrow office will call you and say, congratulations, your documents are in and it's time to make a signing appointment. If you are a first-time home buyer, I try my very hardest to be at that appointment with you. So if you can communicate with me, let me know the timelines that are available. I would love to be there with you just to help you if you have any questions at the signing table. And on that same day, they'll be requesting either a wire. They'll say, congratulations, we're signing. We're all set for closing on Friday. And your bottom line or what you need to bring to close is X amount. And you can either go get a cashier's check from your bank, or you can initiate a wire to go through. But if you do a wire, make sure you do it at least 24 hours beforehand, because it takes a while sometimes for those to go through. But we are here to guide and help you through the whole entire process, and we can talk about these things over and over and over. There's never a dumb question when it comes to this. When you're dealing with a big decision like this, sometimes we can talk about something and you might forget, and that's okay. We're here. I've gone through this process many times, and I do not mind whatsoever answering any questions through the process. And I have also talked or spoken with many first-time home buyers' parents, or usually the first meeting will have the parents there too. It's never a problem to include more people in your decision-making process. As long as it's not stressing you out, I'm all for it. So if you have any other real estate questions and or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us. We would love to answer your questions. And we have a whole team of people that we work with. If I can't answer it, we will find the answer for you. So there's never a dumb question, and please reach out to us. We would be more than glad to help you.